Hello, besties. Welcome back to Maggie Stories. Kayla thought she was raising a daughter in peace. The universe said nope. Because a giant serval cat just adopted a child, ignored all human boundaries, and accidentally dragged a lonely Korean billionaire into their lives.
The cat was sitting on her daughter's head. Not beside it. Not near it. On it. Keila Baptiste stood approximately 15 feet away, one hand frozen halfway to her mouth. Her iced coffee tilted at a 45-degree angle that was going to become somebody's problem in about 3 seconds. She had lived in Seoul for 4 years. She had survived Amanda's kindergarten phase where she only answered to Princess Thunder. She had navigated the time Amanda convinced their entire apartment building that Keila was a secret government agent who couldn't discuss her work. But nothing had prepared her for this. Her 8-year-old daughter was sitting cross-legged in the grass of Buckshin Park, and perched on top of her naturally curled, puffed-out hair, which Keila had spent 45 minutes on that morning. 45 minutes, was the largest cat she had ever seen in her life. It was spotted. It had legs like a runway model. Its ears were tall and pointed and dusted with white, and it was staring directly at Keila with the specific, ancient contempt of a creature that had decided it was better than everyone in the park and simply hadn't gotten around to announcing it yet. It was a serval, in a public park, sitting on her child. Amanda Celestine Baptiste, Keila said, in the voice she reserved for situations that were either extremely dangerous or extremely embarrassing, and this was somehow both. Do not move. Amanda, who had inherited approximately 0 of Keila's tendency toward caution, looked up, which disturbed the cat not even slightly, and grinned the grin of someone who had been having the best morning of their entire life. "Mummy?" she whispered loudly, because Amanda had one volume and it was announcement. "He is so soft. Feel him. Come feel him." "I am not coming to feel him, Amanda. His name is Socks." "You don't know his name." "I asked him and he said Socks." The cat blinked, slowly, like it was considering the name, and finding it acceptable. Keila pressed the heel of her hand to her forehead. She was wearing her good Saturday clothes, a long rust-orange skirt with a handblock print that she'd gotten shipped from Trinidad specifically, paired with a cream-structured top, and earrings that her mother had sent for her birthday. She had planned a peaceful morning. Coffee, fresh air, watch Amanda burn off energy so she'd actually sleep before noon on Sunday. A simple, quiet plan. And now there was a wildcat on her daughter's head. Other parkgoers had begun to gather at a respectful distance. A cluster of older Korean women who looked equal parts horrified and fascinated. 2 joggers who had stopped entirely. A father holding a toddler who had decided the toddler was now going back in the stroller immediately. They were all watching Amanda with the wide, wondering eyes of people witnessing something that wasn't supposed to be possible. Amanda, naturally, was performing. "See, I found him by the fountain," she explained to the cat as though it had asked. "And at first I thought you were just a big kitten, right? Because you've got the kitten energy. You've got the bounce. But then you sat down and I was like, no, you are a grown cat, you just haven't accepted it yet. That's okay. Me neither." The serval turned its head toward her voice. Its ear flicked. "Yes," Amanda said. "Exactly." Keila had started moving slowly, the way she'd read you were supposed to move around large unfamiliar animals, which she'd only read because of the one time Amanda had tried to befriend a stray dog in Itaewon and Keila had Googled what to do when your child has adopted an animal without permission at 2 in the morning. "Baby," she said softly, "that cat is very big and we don't know if it's—" "He's friendly, Mummy. Look at his energy." "Amanda, I cannot read a cat's energy." "I can." This was, unfortunately, probably true. Amanda Baptiste had a gift that Keila couldn't explain, and had stopped trying to. A frequency she operated on that animals, small children, and confused elderly strangers all seemed to pick up. Dogs that had barked at entire streets went quiet when she walked past. Babies in restaurants stopped crying when she made faces at them. And apparently, serval cats that belonged to nobody and could theoretically remove a child's face with one swipe were content to use her hair as a throne. The cat, Socks, apparently, chose this moment to stand up, stretch with the elaborate, full-body luxury of something that had never once been rushed, and step down from Amanda's head onto her shoulder. Amanda giggled. Keila's iced coffee finally tipped. "Aish," said someone behind her, and then there was a hand. A large hand. Catching the cup before it hit the ground, appearing from her left side with the kind of reflexes that were frankly unnecessary and a little bit showing off. Keila spun. The man standing beside her was tall. That was the first thing. In Seoul, she'd grown accustomed to being roughly eye level with most of the men she worked with, but this one had several inches on her easy, and she was not short. He was Korean, maybe 30, 32, with the sort of face that looked like it had been assembled by someone who took their job very seriously. Sharp jaw, good cheekbones, dark hair that had been pushed back in a way that suggested it had started the morning neat and given up sometime around hour 2. He was wearing a slate gray linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up and dark trousers that had clearly not come from anywhere Keela could afford, and he was holding her iced coffee upright with one hand and staring at the scene in front of them. His enormous spotted cat sitting on the shoulder of an 8-year-old Trinidadian girl who was scratching under its chin and narrating its personality to it, with an expression that Keela could only describe as a man watching everything he understood about the world quietly rearrange itself. "I'm so sorry," Keela started, reaching for the coffee. The cat came to her. I swear. She didn't chase it, it just, "Oh, cool," he said under his breath. Not to her. To the cat. The cat looked at him, looked away, went back to Amanda's chin scratching. Something crossed the man's face. It was fast, but Keela caught it. Pure, helpless, offended disbelief. His cat. His cat that he had presumably raised and cared for and probably fed very expensive food, had just looked at him and chosen the child. "Socks," Amanda said suddenly, looking up with enormous eyes. "Is this your dad?" The man blinked. "His name is not. He told me his name was Socks. He is a cat." "He did not. Did he tell you his name?" A pause. "No." "So." Amanda gestured broadly, as if that settled international law. "Socks." Keela was going to dissolve. She could feel it starting at the edges, the specific violent urge to laugh that came when something was so far outside normal functioning that the body stopped knowing what else to do. She pressed her lips together and stared very hard at a tree. The man looked at her. She could feel him looking at her. She kept staring at the tree. "Is she yours?" he asked. "She came with me, yes." "Can you?" He stopped. Started again. "Could you perhaps ask her to return my cat?" "I've been trying to get her to do things since 2016, Keela said, still watching the tree. "I'll let you know when I figure out the method." He was quiet for a moment. Then Amanda, who had been watching this entire exchange with the bright, clinical interest of someone taking notes, suddenly pointed at him. "Wait," she said. "Hold on." She lifted the cat, who allowed this, because apparently Socks had simply decided, and held it against her chest while she looked the man up and down with the thoroughness of a border agent who had seen things. "How do I know," Amanda said slowly, "that this is actually your cat?" The man stared at her. "I beg your pardon? Proof of ownership. Do you have documentation? A photo?" "His adoption papers." "Amanda," Keela started. "Mummy, anyone can come and claim a cat. This is basic stranger danger. We learned about it. Stranger danger is for strangers approaching you. Not. He approached us. At a park. To take the cat." Amanda looked at him calmly. "Sir, I'm going to need to see some ID." The man opened his mouth. Closed it. He looked at Keela with an expression that said very clearly, "Is this a thing that is happening right now?" And Keela, who had completely lost the battle with the laugh, pressed her whole fist against her mouth and nodded. She's thorough," Keela managed. "I can see that. I have a phone," he said, after a moment, turning back to Amanda with what looked like a genuine attempt at patience. "I have photos of him. His name is not Socks, it is Ryu. He is 2 years old. I have had him since he was." "Show me the photos first," Amanda said. "Then I'll consider." He pulled out his phone. Showed her. Amanda studied each photo with the seriousness of a forensic specialist, while Socks, Ryu, sat in her arms and looked at his owner with what Keela could only describe as smug satisfaction. "Okay," Amanda finally said. "He's yours. But he picked me first, so we have shared custody now. I'm Amanda. That's my mum, Keela. We live." "Amanda," Keela said. "Around here somewhere." Amanda finished seamlessly. "What's your name?" He paused for just a beat, the pause of someone deciding something quickly. "J1, he said. "Park J1. "Cool," said Amanda. She held out Ryu. Jae-won took his cat. Ryu twisted in his arms immediately and reached one spotted paw back toward Amanda. Jae-won looked at the paw, looked at Amanda, looked at the paw again. "He likes you," he said, like he was confessing something against his will. "I know," Amanda said pleasantly. "Cats always do." She skipped back toward the bench where their things were. Her puff slightly lopsided from the weight of a large spotted cat but otherwise unbothered, already pulling her snack from the bag. Keela watched her go, then turned back to find Jae-won watching her with an expression she couldn't quite name. "She's incredible," he said finally. "She's a menace," Keela said. "But yes," he almost smiled. It was close. A corner of the mouth thing that suggested the machinery was there, just rusty from disuse. "Your coffee," he said and handed it back to her. She took it. Their fingers didn't touch dramatically or anything. This wasn't that kind of moment. But Keela looked up at him in the flat sole morning light, Ryu draped over his forearm like a spotted scarf, and thought, for just a second, the way you think something before you can stop it. Huh. Then Amanda yelled, "Mummy." My mango gummy exploded from across the park, and the moment was gone. Keela knew approximately 3 things about Park Jae-won by the time they said goodbye. 1. His cat was inexplicably devoted to her daughter. 2. He had the energy of someone who had not genuinely laughed at anything in a while, and Amanda had cracked something open in him today without even trying. 3. He was wearing a watch that Keela had once seen in a magazine spread about men who did not look at price tags and had physically closed the magazine because it stressed her out. She filed all 3 facts away and forgot about them almost immediately, because she had a mango gummy emergency to deal with and a 45-minute hair situation that was now significantly compromised. She didn't think she'd see him again. She was wrong about that. The first time it happened, Keela thought she was hallucinating. It was a Tuesday. She knew it was a Tuesday because Tuesdays were her long days. Back-to-back meetings from 9 until 4. The kind that left her walking through her own front door at 6:15 with her blazer half off her shoulder and her brain running approximately 40 minutes behind her body. She managed her company's sole regional operations, which meant she spent most of her professional life being the most organized person in any room while also being the person everyone called when the room was on fire. Literally and figuratively. There had been one literal incident in the 3rd quarter. She did not discuss it. So yes, Tuesday, 6:17 p.m. Keela pushed open the balcony door to let in some evening air because the apartment felt like it had been holding its breath all day, set her bag on the kitchen counter, and turned toward the living room. The serval was sitting on her balcony railing, not moving, not making a sound, just sitting there in the fading soul light like a very large, very spotted piece of decorative furniture that had developed opinions. Keela stood completely still for 6 full seconds. The cat, Ryu, her brain supplied, because apparently she'd retained that, stared at her with its enormous golden eyes and then slowly, deliberately, blinked. Keela turned around, walked back to her kitchen counter, put both hands flat on it, and breathed. "Amanda," she called. From the bedroom, the sounds of what was definitely not homework. "Yes, Mummy. Come here, please. In a minute." "Amanda Celestine Baptiste." I said come here. The full name. Amanda appeared in the hallway doorway within 4 seconds, still in her school uniform, socks mismatched as always, holding a pencil she had clearly not been using for anything academic. She looked at Keela. Keela looked at her. Then Keela pointed at the balcony without turning her head. Amanda looked at the balcony. Something happened on her face. It was very fast and she almost controlled it, but Keela had been reading that face for 8 years, had memorized every micro-expression, every twitch of guilt, every millisecond of delight she tried to fold into innocence. What crossed Amanda's face when she saw Ryu sitting on their balcony railing was not surprise. Amanda said. Keela repeated. "That's a cat." "Yes, it is. On our balcony." "Also correct." Amanda tilted her head. "Wild." "Amanda. Mummy. How long?" Keela said very carefully. "Has this been happening?" The pause was too long. Amanda was calculating, Keela could see it, the rapid internal mathematics of an 8-year-old figuring out what was already known versus what could still be denied, and adjusting the confession accordingly. 3 times, Amanda said. 3. Maybe 4. Amanda. The first time I thought I was dreaming. Amanda said, which was almost certainly a lie delivered with tremendous conviction. And then the second time he came I gave him some of my rice crackers and then, you fed him. Just a little. You fed a serval cat? Keela said slowly. That belongs to someone else. Rice crackers on our balcony, and then told me nothing about it. I didn't want you to worry. I am worrying now. I am worrying significantly. See, this is why I didn't tell you. Keela pressed her fingers to her temple. Through the glass balcony door, Ryu had apparently decided the conversation was taking too long and lay down on the railing with the ease of an animal that had absolutely no concerns about the physics of this. He was enormous. His spotted legs dangled. He looked like a very expensive throw pillow that had gained consciousness. He comes over the balcony divider, Amanda explained, moving to the door and sliding it open like Ryu was an expected guest. Our balcony and the next apartment's balcony are connected, like there's only a little divider, and he just hops over. Hi, Ryu. Ryu looked at her and made a sound that was somewhere between a chirp and a small engine starting. Amanda's whole face lit up. He does that when he sees me, she told Keela. It means he's happy. I looked it up. You looked it up. On the school iPad. During free reading. Keela looked at her daughter, then at the cat, then at the divider between their balcony and the next units. A low partition, completely crossable for a cat with legs like a supermodel. She thought about the apartment next door, which she had moved past approximately 100 times in the corridor, and which she had assumed was empty because she had never seen anyone come or go from it in 4 months. Who? Keela said. Lives next door, Amanda. Amanda picked up Ryu, who allowed this with the resigned acceptance of someone who had decided this child was simply part of his life now, and buried her face in his neck. MMFH, she said. That was not an answer. Amanda lifted her face. I don't know his last name. The floor dropped slightly beneath Keela's feet. Not literally, but something in her stomach did a small, specific rearrangement that she did not give permission for. Amanda. He only told me his first name, J1. I don't know if there's more to it. Park J1, Keela said, mostly to herself. Oh, you know it. Okay, so you're already ahead of me. He lives next door. Apparently, yes. Amanda scratched Ryu behind one tall ear. I found out on the second visit. He came to get Ryu and I opened our door and he was standing there and we were both like, oh. And then he left. And you said nothing to me. You were stressed about the Q3 report. This was also true and also not the point. Amanda, I am your mother. You tell me things. I tell you lots of things. You tell me everything except the things I would find most relevant. Mummy, I feel like you're making this a big deal. There is a wildcat on our balcony. He's a domestic serval, Amanda said, with the authority of someone who had done exactly 2 Google searches and felt they had a doctorate. They're legal in Korea with the right permits. Ryu has his permits. I checked. You checked. On the school iPad. During free. If you say free reading one more time, Amanda. A knock at the front door. They both froze. Ryu lifted his head. The 3 of them looked at the front door with the specific energy of people who had been mid-crime when the police arrived, even though technically only one of them was a person and the other was a cat. And technically the crime was just not mentioning a neighbor. Keela straightened her blazer. She was still half in it, still carrying the full weight of a Tuesday, and walked to the door. She opened it. Park J1 was standing in her doorway in a navy technical jacket and dark-fitted trousers, holding a small paper bag that smelled expensive, with the expression of a man who had come to collect his cat and had absolutely not prepared himself for anything else. He saw Keela. She saw him. His eyes went to her still half-on blazer. Her Tuesday eyes. The faint evidence of a long day that she knew was written across her face whether she wanted it there or not. Oh, he said. Hi, she said. A beat. This is your apartment, he said. It is, yes. I didn't. Ryu comes to this, he stopped. Recalibrated. I live next door. I recently learned that. I had no idea this was. He stopped again, and something moved in his expression. Not quite embarrassment. Not quite amusement. Something that lived right between them and couldn't decide. I've been coming to get him, and your daughter has been letting you in and saying nothing to me, yes. Keela stepped back from the door. Come in. Your cat is having a moment on my balcony railing. He came in. Amanda was standing in the middle of the living room, Ryu draped over her arms like a spotted stole, watching J1 arrive into her home with the expression of someone who had orchestrated something and was now watching it reach the stage she had planned for. "Oh hey," Amanda said. "Small world." "Hello, Amanda," J1 said. "You know her name," Keela noted. "We've met," he said carefully. "A few times." "A few," Keela repeated, looking at Amanda, who found the ceiling extremely interesting. J1 looked around the apartment with the particular attention of someone who was trying to be subtle about it and wasn't entirely succeeding. Keela had made the apartment theirs in the way she made everywhere theirs. Color where color could go. Fabrics that felt like home. Amanda's drawings on the refrigerator beside Keela's work schedules. A row of hot sauces on the counter that would have confused most of her Korean colleagues. There was a framed photo on the bookshelf of Keela and Amanda at Maracas Bay. Both of them soaked and laughing, taken 3 years ago when they'd gone back to Trinidad for Christmas. Amanda in a bright yellow swimsuit and Keela in a orange and red one-piece. The ocean ridiculous and blue behind them. He saw it. She saw him see it. "Trinidad?" he asked. "Originally, yes." She moved to the kitchen. "You want tea?" "I'm making tea." It was a reflex. She'd grown up in a house where the answer to everything, guests, arguments, long days, good news, was tea. Her mother made tea for the postal worker. She had made tea at her own father's wake. Tea was the thing you did with your hands when you didn't know what else to do with them, and right now her hands needed something to do. "I don't want to." "You're not intruding. I'm offering." She looked at him over the counter. "Sit." "Amanda, homework." "I did my homework." "Amanda." "I did some of my homework." "Room." Amanda looked at Ryu. Ryu looked at Amanda. She set him down on the floor with the ceremony of a farewell. He watched her walk toward the hallway, then turned and walked directly to where Jaewon was lowering himself onto Keela's sofa, and leapt up beside him. Jaewon looked down at his cat. "He does not do this at home," he said. "He doesn't sit beside me on the sofa. He barely acknowledges me at home." "Amanda has that effect," Keela said from the kitchen. "Things just warm up around her. Animals, people, kitchen appliances. I once watched a printer start working after she talked to it for 4 minutes. A sound from him. Short. Involuntary. Not quite a laugh, but the doorway to one. She glanced over. He had one hand resting near Ryu without quite touching him, like he was waiting to see if the cat would allow it. Ryu was staring forward at nothing. Then, without ceremony, he stepped onto Jaewon's lap, turned twice, and sat down. The expression on Jaewon's face did something that Keela didn't mean to catalog and cataloged anyway. It was small and unguarded, the way people look when they're relieved by something they didn't know they needed. He put his hand on the cat's back and Ryu, the diplomatic mastermind, settled into it like he'd always lived there. She made the tea. She brought it out. She sat in the chair across from him instead of on the sofa, because the sofa had a man and a large cat on it and it didn't feel like a sofa situation. "How long have you lived next door?" she asked. 7 months. "I've never seen you in the corridor." "I leave early," he said. "Usually before 6. I leave at 7:30. She wrapped both hands around her mug. "And you're clearly home by late." "Usually." He looked at the tea, then at her. "What do you do?" "Regional manager. Consumer goods company." She tilted her head. "You?" He paused. Not the pause of someone thinking of how to answer, but the pause of someone thinking about what to answer, like there were multiple options and he was selecting carefully. "Investment," he said. He said it the way people said it when they meant something much larger than the word, and Keela had worked with enough executive-level men to know exactly what that particular brevity meant. She nodded once and didn't push it, and she saw something in his face acknowledge that. A small relaxation. From Amanda's room came the sound of music. Not study music. Something with a beat. "Amanda, homework." The music changed. Not off, just lower. Keela sighed. Jaewon was looking at the hallway. "She is," he paused. "I know. I was going to say remarkable." "I know," Keela said again, softer. "She came out like that, fully formed. The doctor handed her to me, and she looked at me like she already knew things. He looked at the photo on the shelf again. Her father. He passed, Keela said simply. Not as a door close, just as what it was. A fact she had learned to hold without flinching. She was one. She doesn't have the memory, just the knowing. I think that's why she mothers everyone she meets. She paused. The cat included. Jae-won said nothing for a moment. He stroked Ryu slowly. The apartment was quiet except for the distant thump of Amanda's defiant music and the sounds of Seoul coming in through the open balcony door. Traffic and evening birds and someone frying something in the building across. Why Seoul? He asked. She looked at him. It was the question everyone asked: Koreans, expats, people at work, parents at Amanda's school. She had a polished answer she gave at networking events, a lighter version for small talk, and the real one she kept for herself. She looked at Park Jae-won, who had shown up in her doorway holding a paper bag and sat in her living room being quietly, unexpectedly easy to be around, and she wasn't sure which version was going to come out. I wanted to go somewhere that didn't already know me, she said. Somewhere I could decide from scratch who I was going to be here, without history, without the shape other people had already made for me. She glanced at the hallway toward Amanda. And I wanted that for her too, the chance to be whoever she decided, before anyone told her who that was. He was quiet for a long time after that. Not uncomfortably. The kind of quiet that was listening even after the words had stopped. I understand that, he said finally. She believed him. He stayed for 37 minutes. She knew because she checked later, not during. She only counted it after, when he'd left with Ryu tucked over his shoulder and Amanda had materialized in the doorway of her room the second the front door closed, wearing the expression of a child who had been listening to every word. Well, Amanda said. Homework, said Keela. The homework is done. All of it. The important parts. Keela took her mug to the kitchen sink. She could feel Amanda watching her back with the focused intensity of a scientist observing a reaction. He's nice, Amanda offered. He is, Keela said, which was a completely neutral and informational response. And his cat loves me. He does. And they live right next door, so it's very convenient. Amanda, I will hear no more from you tonight. Keela pointed at the hallway. Bath, bed. And if I find out you've been operating a secret cat visitation program again, I will return every single sticker in your collection. Amanda gasped. The stickers were serious. She retreated. Keela stood at her kitchen sink for a moment, looking at nothing. 37 minutes. A man who laughed with his whole face the one time she made him and had no idea he'd done it. A cat who had apparently decided her balcony was a second home. She rinsed both mugs. One hers, one his. There's nothing, she told herself. From Amanda's room came the sound of music starting again. Louder now because the threat had passed, and distantly, improbably, the sound of small feet doing something on the hardwood floor that was unmistakably dancing. Keela put the mugs on the rack. It's nothing. 3 days later, she came home to find Ryu on the balcony again. This time, there was a handwritten note tucked under his collar. She unfolded it. The handwriting was neat, precise, the kind of handwriting that came from a serious education. He won't stay home when I'm at work. I apologize. There is a good veterinary bakery near Anguk Station. They make treats he likes. I left some on your balcony railing. In case he stays too long and you need to bribe him. Park Jae-won. P.S. Please tell Amanda that his name is still not Socks. Keela stood on her balcony in the early evening, holding the note, and Ryu headbutted her knee once and went back to watching the city. She almost smiled. She fully smiled. The dancing started on a Wednesday. Keela knew this because she had a very clear memory of walking past Amanda's room on a Wednesday evening, glancing through the half-open door on her way to the kitchen, and stopping so abruptly she nearly sprained something. Amanda was standing in the middle of her bedroom floor in her after-school clothes, a bright coral top and wide navy culottes that she had picked herself because Amanda had been dressing herself since she was 5 and Keela had learned to simply accompany the decisions, with her small Bluetooth speaker propped on her desk, playing something with a heavy, rolling bass line. This was normal. Amanda dancing in her room was something that happened with the regularity of sunrise. She had danced since she could stand. She danced to commercials. She had once danced at a parent-teacher meeting because the waiting room had a radio. What was not normal was her dance partner. Ryu was sitting on the floor in front of her, upright, alert, his tall ears forward, his golden eyes tracking Amanda's feet with the concentration of someone who was taking notes. Every time Amanda stepped left, his head went left. Every time she stepped right, his head tracked right. And when she did a small spinning move and landed with both arms out, Ryu stood up, took 2 quick steps forward, and batted at her left hand. Yes, Amanda said. That's it. That's the move. Do it again. Ryu sat back down. Okay, so you only do it when you feel like it. That's actually very dancery of you. Real artists only perform when inspired. Keela stood in the doorway and watched this for a full minute before she made any sound, and in that minute she went through approximately 9 emotions, including but not limited to bewilderment, love so sharp it was almost painful, the specific resigned amusement of a parent who has accepted that their life is simply going to be this, and something dangerously close to the urge to film it and send it to someone. She did not have a someone to send things to. She had her mother in Trinidad who would respond with 17 prayer emojis and a voice note. She had her best friend Tamara in Toronto who responded to everything with girl in capitals. These were good people and she loved them. But they weren't the specific someone she'd thought of when she reached for her phone. She put her phone back in her pocket. How long? She said from the doorway. Amanda spun around. Ryu's ear flicked. Neither of them looked remotely guilty. He just started doing it, Amanda said. I wasn't even teaching him. He likes the music. He tracks the beat. Servals don't. Mummy, Ryu does. Amanda gestured at him. He's not a regular cat. He has rhythm. Keela looked at Ryu. Ryu looked at Keela. From the speaker, the song ticked into its chorus, and Ryu's head, slowly, unmistakably, moved with it. Oh my God, Keela said quietly. I know, Amanda said. The routine, as it developed over the following week and a half, went like this. Ryu arrived on the balcony somewhere between 4:30 and 5, which was after Amanda got home from school and before Keela got home from work. Amanda let him in, through the balcony door, which they had stopped pretending to keep latched, gave him a treat from the small bag J1 had sent over, and spent approximately 45 minutes with him before her mother appeared. The 45 minutes involved rice crackers, homework read aloud to the cat as an audience, dancing, whatever Amanda was currently interested in explaining to a creature that could not respond but maintained eye contact better than most adults, and occasionally Amanda lying flat on the floor while Ryu stepped on her and she narrated this to herself like a nature documentary. The young explorer has been flattened by the magnificent spotted predator. She does not mind. She has known worse. She once sat through a 3-hour school concert where someone played Hot Cross Buns on recorder 14 times. Keela had heard this particular narration on a Thursday and had to leave the doorway. The part she didn't find out until later being a relative term in a household with Amanda, where information released itself on its own schedule, was that sometimes J1 came to get Ryu before Keela got home, and those visits had their own texture. He would knock. Amanda would open the door. She would hand him tea. She had learned to make tea, Keela's tea, the strong Caribbean kind with condensed milk, which she had absolutely no business making and had apparently been making correctly for 2 weeks. And he would sit on the sofa while Ryu gave him approximately 4 minutes of begrudging attention before returning to Amanda. What do you even talk about? Keela asked when this came out. Stuff, Amanda said. What stuff, Amanda? He asked me what my favorite subject is. I said none of them. He laughed. I told him about my fish, the one that died last year, and he said he was sorry and he meant it, you could tell. I told him about home, about Trinidad, about Grandma, about how the sea there is a different color than the sea here. She paused. He'd never been to the Caribbean. Most people haven't. He said he wanted to go. Amanda looked up at Keela with the clear, uncomplicated gaze she got when she was saying something important in the way that only children can, without armor, without the cushioning adults put around the truth. He's lonely, Mummy. Keela was quiet. I can tell, Amanda said. He's the kind of lonely that's been going on a long time, so he doesn't make a face about it anymore. But you can see it. She looked at Ryu, who was sitting by the balcony door with his back to both of them. That's probably why Ryu comes here. Animals know. It was on a Saturday morning, 3 weeks after the balcony note, that Keela and J1 had their first truly voluntary, fully unorchestrated, nobody manufactured this conversation. Amanda had a Saturday dance class. She went every week, came back sweaty and satisfied and full of opinions about the other children's technique. Keela usually spent that hour doing the grocery run, which she did at the small market 2 streets over that had the particular brand of seasoning she trusted, and the man at the vegetable stall who always gave her extra spring onions without being asked because he said she was the only customer who genuinely looked at the produce before choosing it. She was coming back from the market, bag in each hand, juggling her keys, when the elevator doors opened on their floor, and Jaewon stepped out of it holding a cardboard drink carrier with 2 cups. They both stopped. He was in a dark green crewneck and dark jeans, weekend clothes, the least formally she'd seen him, and it did something irritating to the way he occupied space, like he was suddenly 3-dimensional in a way that was new. His hair was unstyled, which meant it had done something on its own that she was not going to comment on. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he said. They stood in the corridor for a moment, equidistant from both their doors. "Amanda's at dance class," she said. "Ah." He glanced at the drink carrier. "I brought." He paused, then seemed to hear how that sounded. "Ryu got out this morning. I assumed he'd gone to yours. I was going to." Another pause. "I brought coffee. I don't know why I brought 2. Keela looked at the 2 cups. "Maybe you knew she wouldn't be home," she said. "I didn't know. I'm saying maybe a part of you knew." She shifted her grocery bags. "That's all." He looked at her, then at the cups, then very carefully, at a spot on the wall just past her shoulder, like he was thinking about something. "Would you like the second coffee?" he said. Flat, factual. The way you ask things when you were trying not to make them bigger than they were. "Yes," she said. "Same register. Come in." He stayed 2 hours. Not 17 minutes. Not 37. 2 full hours, during which Ryu located himself exactly between them on the sofa. Because he was there. He'd been in the apartment all along. Amanda had been wrong about the cat escaping, or rather the cat had escaped and come back and let himself back in through the unlatched balcony door and was now asleep in the strip of sunlight on the cushion. And Keela sat in the chair across and they talked. Not small talk. Or it started as small talk and then simply didn't stay there. He told her about the company, not with the guarded brevity of that first Tuesday, but more details, the weight of it. 3rd generation. He had not chosen it so much as grown inside it until the shape of him fit the space that had always been waiting. He said this without resentment, which she found strange. And then she looked at his face and realized it wasn't the absence of resentment, but the presence of something that had moved past it. "Do you like it?" she asked. He considered this properly. She liked that about him, that he didn't answer quickly just to fill the silence. "She cried more when I moved here. I think Seoul was an abstraction to her for a long time, just a place that existed in the category of far away and not where you should be. And then she came to visit last year and she cried again, but different this time." "Different how?" she said. Keela smiled at the cup. She said, "Okay, I can see you here." Like she needed to see it to believe I hadn't just disappeared into somewhere. She glanced up. "Do your parents?" "My father passed 3 years ago," he said. Simply. The same register she'd used about Daniel, she noticed. The way you said things that you've said enough times that they've become just a sentence. "I'm sorry. My mother is in Busan. She visits." His mouth did something small. "She cries too, but usually about the apartment. She thinks it is too empty. It is too empty." The words sat in the air between them, and neither of them addressed them directly, which was its own kind of address. "Is that why Ryu?" she asked. He looked at the cat. "He was not supposed to be. I read about servals. As a thing to know about. And then I read more, and then I was at the rescue and he was there and he was very small and very loud and I thought, at least there will be noise." He paused. "He has not been very interested in providing noise. Mostly he sits in corners and judges. Until Amanda. Until Amanda." They both looked at the sleeping cat, who was choosing this moment to make a very small sound in his sleep. A chirping exhale, like even unconscious he was having opinions. And then at each other, and this time neither of them looked away immediately. The chocolate incident happened on Amanda's return. The dance class ended at noon. Amanda came through the front door at 12:14. Keela knew the routine, the tumble of shoes, the bag dropped mid-hallway. The announcement of arrival that Amanda made simply by entering a space, and stopped dead in the entrance when she saw Jaewon on the sofa. A moment. Then Amanda's face moved through surprise and into something that was trying very hard to be casual and not succeeding. "Oh," she said. "Hey. Hello, Amanda. You're here." "I am." She looked at Keela. Keela looked back with the composed expression of a woman who had decided she was not going to give her 8-year-old the satisfaction. Amanda looked at the coffee cups, both used clearly, and at the way Ryu was asleep between them, and at the general energy of a room where two people had been talking for 2 hours. "Cool," Amanda said, in the specific tone of someone who had been working towards something for weeks and was watching it arrive and was trying not to ruin it by reacting. She dropped her bag, went to the kitchen, opened the cupboard above the counter where Keela kept the things that were treats, the good biscuits, the Trinidadian chocolate that her mother sent in every care package, the expensive ones with the hibiscus filling that Amanda was technically only allowed on Fridays, and came back out holding one. She walked to J1 and held it out. "Here," she said. He looked at it. "Thank you. It's the good one. From home." She sat next to Ryu and put one hand on his sleeping back. "Mummy only gives those to people she likes." Keela closed her eyes. "Amanda," she said. "What? It's true." "It is not. You don't give them to Mr. Kim from downstairs, and he brings you vegetables. That is a completely different. You gave one to Mrs. O on the 4th floor that time she watched me. Because she watched you. And you're giving them to me all the time and I live here. You are my child. And you gave one to Amanda Celestine." Amanda closed her mouth. She scratched Ryu's back. Ryu woke up, looked around, processed the situation, and immediately climbed across the sofa and put his head in Amanda's lap as if he had not been asleep for the last 40 minutes. J1. Keela noticed when she opened her eyes and looked at him, was holding the chocolate and was doing absolutely everything in his power not to look at her and not entirely winning. His jaw was tight. His eyes were very slightly crinkled at the corners. His shoulders had that particular set of a person fighting something internally. "Thank you for the chocolate," he said to Amanda, in a voice that was working very hard to be neutral. "You're welcome," Amanda said. "She has more. In the cupboard. She'll probably give you another one before you leave." "I will not," Keela started. "You might," Amanda said. "You don't know your own future." He left at 1:30. Amanda walked him to the door with the ceremony of a hostess who took her role seriously, Ryu draped over her arms. "Come back," she said, handing over the cat. "Ryu needs the visits. He's been sleeping better." "Has he?" "Yes, he's calmer. I think he's less stressed." She looked up at J1 with her clearest, most direct eyes. "Sometimes when you're by yourself too long you just get quieter and quieter until you forget how to be loud. But then you find the right people and you remember." J1 looked at her for a moment. "You are 8 years old," he said. "Yes?" Amanda agreed pleasantly. He looked at Keela, who was standing behind Amanda in the hallway with her arms folded and an expression she genuinely could not control. "Thank you for the coffee," he said. "You brought the coffee," she said. "Thank you for the cups, the seating, the corner of his mouth, the welcome." She laughed. She didn't plan to. It just happened the way things happened around him, without the usual machinery of deciding, just a spontaneous, honest sound that came out before she could curate it. He caught it. She saw him catch it, the way his eyes went a little more present, a little more there. "Come for dinner," Amanda said. "On Friday. Mummy's cooking. She makes the best food and she'll say not to come over, but what she means is she'd like you to come." "Amanda." "Mummy, I'm helping." "You are not in any way. Someone has to." Amanda looked at J1. "Friday, 7. Don't bring anything. She'll get stressed about whether it's the right wine." "I do not." "She does," Amanda told him. "She stood in the wine aisle for 11 minutes last Christmas." "I hate you a little bit right now," Keela said, which was a lie and Amanda knew it. J1 looked from Amanda to Keela and back, and this time he actually smiled. Not the doorway to a smile. Not the almost. The full thing, and it rearranged his entire face in a way that was deeply unfair. And Keela stood in her hallway in her Saturday clothes and felt something move in her chest with the gentle, unstoppable momentum of something that had already decided. "Friday," he said. 7. He left. Amanda shut the door. Silence. Then Amanda, who had clearly been holding this in for the entirety of the interaction, turned around and looked at her mother with the expression of someone who had been running a very successful operation and was about to receive a well-deserved award. Don't, Keela said. I didn't say anything. You were about to. I was just going to say, Amanda, that I want a new sticker pack. Keela stared at her. For services rendered, Amanda said. You are not getting a sticker pack for inviting a man to dinner without asking me. He's coming though. Keela turned and walked to the kitchen. He's coming though, Amanda said louder from the hallway. Keela turned on the kettle. He was coming. She stood at the counter with both hands flat on the surface and smiled at the backsplash tiles for approximately 4 seconds, private and helpless and unobserved. Then she heard small feet on the hardwood. And then the gap under the kitchen door showed the shadow of Amanda sitting on the other side of it. Very quiet, very present. And then Ryu's shadow sitting beside her. Keela shook her head slowly. Both of you are menaces, she said to the door. Friday arrived with the specific energy of a day that knew it was being watched. Keela woke up at 6:15, which was normal. She lay in bed for 11 minutes thinking about nothing, which was not normal. She was a woman who woke up with her to-do list already alphabetized. She had been like this since university, since probably the womb if her mother's stories were accurate. You came out organized, her mother always said. Already had a plan. She did not currently have a plan. She got up. Amanda was already in the kitchen when Keela arrived. Standing on the step stool she still used to reach the counter, eating cereal with the focused energy of someone fueling up for a mission. Morning, Amanda said. Morning. Keela went for the kettle. You should make the brown stew chicken, Amanda said. For tonight. Keela paused. I haven't decided what I'm making. I know. I'm deciding for you. Amanda crunched her cereal. Brown stew chicken, rice and peas, the fried plantain, the sweet kind, not the other kind, and that cucumber thing you make that's cold. You've thought about this. Since Tuesday. Keela turned to look at her daughter. Amanda looked back with the serenity of someone who had done nothing wrong and also everything. Amanda, this is not a production. It's dinner. Dinner should be good. You cook good food. Why would you make something boring for? I was going to make pasta. Amanda's expression was devastating in its restraint. She didn't say anything. She just looked at her cereal and back at Keela with the quiet, sorrowful patience of someone who had not raised a daughter to serve pasta at an important dinner. It's not important, Keela said. It's just dinner. Okay, Mummy. It is. I believe you. Keela made her tea. She stood at the counter and drank it. Brown stew chicken, she said finally. Good choice, Amanda said, and went back to her cereal with enormous dignity. She spent the morning doing the things she'd planned for the day: emails, a video call with the London office that ran 20 minutes over because someone in procurement had made a decision that would have been correct in 2019, a long walk to the market because she needed ingredients that were specific and she was not going to discuss why they needed to be specific. She came back with everything for the brown stew chicken, and the sweet plantain, and the cucumber salad, and the rice and peas. She also, without acknowledging this to herself in any direct way, stopped at the small bakery 3 streets over that she went to on special occasions and bought the black sesame tart that she'd had once and thought about for 6 weeks afterwards. She put it in the bag with everything else and carried it home and didn't label what it meant. Amanda, when she saw the tart, looked up at Keela with wide eyes. Mummy, don't. That's the special. It was on offer. You never buy things just because they're... Amanda, I will cancel the whole dinner. Amanda zipped her mouth with her fingers and went to her room to do something that Keela could hear involved Ryu, who had arrived at noon through the balcony with the punctuality of someone who had also been looking forward to Friday. She cooked with music on. This was how she cooked, always, since she was a girl standing beside her mother in their kitchen in Maryville, learning by proximity rather than instruction. The chicken went in the pot with all the things it needed, the smell of it immediately changing the apartment into somewhere that felt more like home than Seoul usually did, and she moved around the kitchen in the particular state of flow that cooking gave her, which was the only time her brain turned off its manager function and became simply a person doing a thing. Amanda drifted in at 4 and sat on the counter. She was not supposed to sit on the counter and watched. Can I help? Wash the cucumber. Amanda washed the cucumber with great ceremony. Do you think he's eaten Trinidadian food before? Amanda asked. I don't know. I'm going to explain everything, Amanda said. What it's called and where it comes from. I wrote notes. Keela looked up from the pot. You wrote notes. For context. In case he has questions. Amanda began slicing the cucumber in the approximate, enthusiastic way of a child who had decided technique was optional. I also taught Ryu a new move today. Did you? A spin. He does it when I play the right song. He doesn't always complete the full rotation, but the intention is there. That's all any of us can offer. That's what I told him. Amanda scraped the cucumber into the bowl. Mummy, can I wear my orange dress tonight? The orange dress was a birthday present from Keela's mother. A bright tangerine sundress with white embroidery along the hem that hit Amanda midcalf. The kind of dress that looked like it had been made specifically for Amanda's coloring and energy. Amanda wore it like armor when she wanted to feel particularly herself. Of course, Keela said. Amanda beamed and hopped off the counter and disappeared. And the apartment was quiet for a while except for cooking sounds and music and, from the direction of Amanda's room, the occasional sound of what was definitely an unsanctioned dance rehearsal. He knocked at 7:05. Not 6:58 and not 7:10. 5 past, which suggested he had stood outside his own door for some amount of time before coming, which Keela decided she was not going to find endearing and found extremely endearing. She was wearing a deep burgundy dress. Long sleeves, the fabric a matte crepe that moved when she moved, paired with gold jewelry that her grandmother had given her and the specific pair of flat sandals she wore when she wanted to feel grounded. Her hair was out. A full cloud of natural curl that she'd spent time on today, not an excessive amount but enough. The kind of enough that she would claim had taken no time if asked. She opened the door. He was in a dark rust-brown shirt, different from his usual blues and grays, warmer like he'd made a choice, and dark trousers and looked like he'd made some effort with his hair that his hair had then partially undone, and he was holding something. A small ceramic pot, with a plant in it. Not flowers. Plant. A small, sturdy succulent in a handmade-looking pot, the kind you got from the little ceramics market in Insadong, not from a supermarket. Keela looked at the plant. He looked at her looking at it. You said not to bring wine, he said. Amanda said not to bring wine. The plant is not wine. The plant is not wine, Keela agreed. It doesn't need much water, he said, which was possibly the most practical thing anyone had ever said while handing over a gift, and she loved it entirely against her will. Come in, she said. Amanda was in the living room in her orange dress, sitting on the sofa, with Ryu arranged across her lap in a way that suggested he had also dressed for the occasion in the sense that he was sitting with more dignity than usual. She looked up at J1 with enormous eyes and then at the plant and then at her mother with the expression of a casting director watching the lead actor nail the entrance. Hi, she said. Hello, Amanda. He looked at her dress. You look very. Thank you, Amanda said immediately. So do you. The color is good on you. She patted the sofa beside her. Sit. Tell me about your week. Did anything interesting happen? Yes, actually. We closed a deal that had been great. Amanda gestured at Keela. Mummy's been cooking for 3 hours, but she's going to say it was easy, so just know it wasn't easy. Amanda. 2 hours 50 technically, but I rounded up. She scratched Ryu's ears. Do you want something to drink? We have that juice Mummy makes, the sorrel kind. I can get drinks, Keela started. I'll get them, Amanda said, lifting Ryu off her lap and depositing him on J1's before he could process that this was happening, and disappearing into the kitchen with the speed of someone who had choreographed this. J1 looked down at Ryu, who was now on his lap, looked at the kitchen door, looked at Keela. She's very efficient, he said. She's been planning this dinner since Tuesday, Keela said. And then she sat in the chair and picked up the small ceramic pot and turned it in her hands, looking at the succulent. This is nice. Thank you. It seemed more, he paused. More what? More like something that stays. She looked up. He was looking at her with the directness that had surprised her the first time and stopped surprising her somewhere around week 2. That particular quality he had of looking at things properly, like he had decided the thing in front of him was worth his full attention. From the kitchen came the sound of Amanda narrating the juice-pouring process to herself and also to Ryu, who had apparently slipped off J1's lap and followed her. Ryu, Amanda was saying, you are not allowed the sorrel. I don't know how it interacts with cats, and I'm not finding out tonight specifically. It was something. She served it the way her mother served things. Everything on the table at once, the smells layering on top of each other, the colors of it against the white dishes like a painting someone had made on purpose. The brown stew chicken dark and rich and glistening. The rice and peas with the coconut running through it. The plantain golden and caramelized at the edges. The cucumber cold and bright alongside everything. J1 sat across from her. Amanda sat between them at the head of the small table, which she had arranged herself by pulling the chairs into a configuration that positioned herself as the clear chair of proceedings. He took the first bite of the chicken. Silence. Not bad silence. The silence of someone recalibrating. He started. I know, Amanda said. She's been cooking like this my whole life. I don't know how other people eat. Amanda, other people eat perfectly well. They eat fine, Amanda said generously. This is different from fine. She pointed at the rice with her fork. This is the rice and peas. The peas are kidney beans. The coconut milk goes in while it cooks. Every Caribbean family has a slightly different version, and ours is the best version because it's ours. J1 looked at Amanda over his plate with the expression he sometimes got around her. A compound thing, warm and slightly undone, like she kept showing him rooms in a house he thought he understood. What else? He asked her. Amanda straightened. She had clearly been waiting for this. Okay, so the plantain, she began, and launched into a detailed account of plantain, its varieties, its correct and incorrect preparation, her grandmother's opinions on the matter which were strong and non-negotiable. The one time a restaurant in Hongdae served her something they called plantain that was in fact something else, and her measured but firm response to this injustice. J1 listened to all of this. He asked follow-up questions. Not polite questions, actual questions, the kind that showed he'd been listening to the thing before. He asked about Trinidad, about what it looked like, about the sea, which Amanda described with her hands as well as her words, arms wide like she was measuring something that couldn't be measured. It goes a different blue every time, Amanda said, like it can't make up its mind, but in a good way, like it has too many good options. I'd like to see it, he said. You should come, Amanda said immediately. We go at Christmas sometimes. Grandma would like you. She likes people who eat properly. She pointed at his plate, which he had been working through with the focus of someone genuinely invested. You eat properly. Highest compliment, Keela said. It is, Amanda confirmed. After dinner, Amanda cleared the plates with the helpfulness of a child who wanted the adults to stay at the table talking and had correctly identified clearing the plates as the way to make that happen. She brought out the black sesame tart, and when she set it on the table, she looked at her mother with visible appreciation, because the tart was not a casual gesture and they both knew it. J1 looked at the tart. You didn't have to. It's a bakery tart, Keela said. I didn't make it. She bought it specially, Amanda said. Amanda. From the bakery she only goes to on special occasions. I go there more than that. Name the last 3 times, Amanda said. Keela looked at her daughter. Amanda served the tart. J1, beside whom the evening had settled into something easy and warm and low, like a fire that had found its rhythm, watched Keela with the small smile that was no longer surprising, just his. Special occasion? He asked. Friday, she said, and looked at her plate. And the corner of her mouth did what it did. Amanda fell asleep on the sofa at 9:30. This was not a plan, or if it was Amanda's body executing Amanda's plan, because she had clearly burned through everything she had making the evening happen and simply ran out. She was mid-sentence about something Ryu had done that she thought was evidence of emotional intelligence, and then her head tipped sideways against the sofa arm and she was simply gone, breathing long and even, her orange dress still bright against the dark sofa, one hand resting on Ryu who was, of course, sleeping against her legs. Keela stood and got the blanket from the basket by the bookshelf and covered her, and stood there for a moment looking at her daughter. 8 years. 8 years of doing this alone, this specific thing, watching her sleep, feeling the magnitude of it, how something this small and improbable and completely herself had simply arrived and remade everything. Keela had not always felt equipped. There had been nights in that first year when she had sat in the dark and felt the weight of it like a physical thing. And then there had been nights when Amanda had looked at her, this creature who could not yet speak or walk or do anything except exist and need, and Keela had thought, with a clarity that passed through her like a current. I would do anything. All of it. Every hard thing. I would not change a single piece. She still thought that. She did a lot of work tonight, Jaewon said, quietly, behind her. She does a lot of work every day, Keela said, equally quiet. She doesn't know she's doing it. She thinks she's just living. She turned. He was standing near the table, far enough to give the moment space. The apartment was soft in the evening light. The lamp in the corner, the kitchen light still on. The balcony door open onto the cool dark of Seoul's night. Down below, the city was still moving, still lit, indifferent and enormous and beautiful. Do you want to sit outside? She said. For a bit. Yes, he said, without the pause she'd half expected. The balcony was small. 2 chairs when she'd arranged it, with a low table between them, a pot of something green that had survived longer than she'd expected. They sat in the cool night and the city was below them and the sky above was what Seoul's sky usually was. Not dark exactly, more a deep violet gray. The stars argued out of existence by the light but the sky still present. Still doing something up there. She had tea. She'd made it automatically. He had accepted it the same way. Can I ask you something? She said. Yes. And you'll answer properly? Not the short version. Something moved on his face, recognition, and something that looked like relief. Yes. She looked at her tea. Are you happy? Here with this, your life. The way it currently is. A long pause. She'd expected him to shape it into something manageable, the way people did when they answered the real version of a question. Find the angle that was true but safe, the partial truth that let you keep the rest. He didn't. No, he said. Not the way I think it should be possible to be. He turned the mug in his hands. The work is, I'm good at the work. The work makes sense to me. But I go home to an apartment that's quiet in the way that isn't peaceful, just, he paused. Quiet because nothing is adding to it. He looked at the city. I think I'd stopped noticing. And then Ryu went onto a stranger's balcony, and a child interrogated me for ownership documents, and I started noticing again. Keela was quiet for a moment. Daniel, Amanda's father, he was funny, she said. That's the thing I think about most, which surprises people. They expect me to say kind, or good, or present. And he was all those things. But mostly he was funny, and he made me funny back, the way some people pull things out of you. When he died I thought. She stopped. Reorganized. I thought I'd lost the version of myself that existed with someone. And I didn't know if she'd come back or if she'd only ever existed because of him. He was looking at her. She came back, Keela said. Slowly. Mostly because of Amanda, who did not give me the option of disappearing. But also just, she came back. She looked at him. I'm saying that to say I understand the quiet you're talking about. I know what that room is. The city moved below them. A siren somewhere, distant. Music from a restaurant 2 streets over. Keela, he said. And the way he said it, just the name, no sentence after it, like the name was the whole of what he'd meant to say. She felt it somewhere in her chest, specific and warm. Don't rush it, she said softly, not to stop him, just because she meant it, for both of them. I've done everything fast out of necessity for a long time. I'd like to not do this fast. Okay, he said immediately. That's not. She laughed a little. That's not me saying no to whatever this is. I know what it is, he said quietly. I'm not in a hurry. She looked at him. He looked back. From inside, through the glass door, Ryu had apparently woken from his position at Amanda's feet and padded to the balcony door and was now sitting on the other side of it, watching them both with his ancient, knowing eyes, his tail moving in the slow, deliberate way of a creature that had done what it had come here to do and was simply waiting for its acknowledgement. Keela looked at the cat. The cat looked at her. You planned this, she told him. Ryu blinked. All of it, she said. Didn't you? The park, the balcony visits, all of it. He held her gaze for 3 full seconds. Then he turned around and walked back to the sofa and stepped directly onto Amanda's legs and settled there. And Amanda didn't wake but curled one sleeping arm around him automatically, and they were both still. Jaewon was watching this. I adopted him, he said. I'm realizing now he adopted me as a vehicle. For what? For getting here, apparently. He looked at her. The quiet kind of looking, the kind that had become familiar over these weeks, that she had stopped bracing for. I should tell you something. Okay. The first morning, at the park, when I came to get him, he paused. I'd seen you before, in the corridor. I'd seen you with Amanda, a few weeks before the park. He looked at the table. I'd thought about saying something. A pause. And then Ryu went to the park that morning and I followed him, and there you were. Keela absorbed this. He knew, she said. I think he knew. She shook her head slowly. That cat is terrifying. He is, Jae-won agreed. He left at 11. Amanda was still asleep on the sofa. She would wake up tomorrow morning there, slightly confused, insisting she'd been awake the whole time. Ryu went with him this time, draped over his shoulder, though he looked back once at the apartment door like he was leaving something deliberate behind. Jae-won stood in the doorway in the way that people stand in doorways when they have somewhere to be and aren't particularly moving toward it. Next Saturday, he said. I know somewhere that does breakfast. Old building, Buckshinaro, they open early and it's quiet. I thought. He glanced past her at the sleeping Amanda. All three of us. All three of us, she said. And Ryu, he said, which made her laugh. You can't bring a serval to breakfast. I've done it before. They know him. She looked at him. Of course they do. She leaned against the doorframe. Okay. All three and Ryu. Saturday. Saturday. He nodded once, that precise, decided nod, the thing he did when something was settled. Turn to go. Jae-won. He turned back. She looked at him in the quiet corridor. This man who had followed his cat into her life and stayed in the way that only things meant to stay do, without force, without drama. Just the gradual, undeniable settling of something finding its place. The plant, she said. I'll put it on the balcony. He understood what she meant. She saw it in his face. The way it moved, warm and unguarded. The full smile again. The one that was still not fair. Good, he said. He left. She closed the door. She stood in her hallway for a moment, in the quiet apartment with her sleeping daughter and the lingering smell of the best Friday she'd had in longer than she could immediately calculate, and she thought about plants that stayed in seas that couldn't make up their mind between blues and a child who had decided the world needed arranging and had simply started arranging it. She walked back through the living room, stopped at the sofa, pulled the blanket up higher over Amanda's shoulder. Amanda stirred, cracked one eye open. Did he go? She murmured. Yes, go back to sleep. Saturday breakfast, Amanda said, eyes already closing. You were awake the whole time, Keela said. MMHM. Amanda smiled without opening her eyes. Told you he was coming to dinner. Keela stood there. Sticker pack, Amanda said, almost asleep. Absolutely not. 2 sticker packs. Amanda. But Amanda was gone again, curled around the space where Ryu had been, smiling in her sleep like someone who had finished exactly the plan she'd started. Keela turned off the lamp. She went to the kitchen and washed the last 2 dishes, the ones from dessert, and then she went to the balcony and put the small ceramic pot right at the edge where the morning light would hit it first. The succulent sat in the sole night, small and certain. Something that stays. She went to bed. For the first time in longer than she could remember, the quiet felt like something full rather than something missing.
Hello besties, in this story we learned that life doesn't always go according to plan and healing often takes longer than we expect. But when we remain open to kindness, friendship and new possibilities, unexpected blessings can find us. Sometimes the people who change our lives arrive in the most surprising ways, bringing love, hope and a fresh beginning. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe and share.